Greetings, Doug. This is Anthony. How are you this morning? I I have a message for you. It's more of a personal communication, and it's the kind of thing that Doug. Blessings to you and Hillary, and I hope today finds you well, and in God's ever capable hands. Doug, you never cease to amaze me how God is working in you, and the things He shows me through you, and just amazed. I was amazed this morning when I read your post, and I read your. I wouldn't call it an admonition. I'd say, well, a suggestion or a critique, which I took um, very well. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and you stated that I'm trying to understand is what you said, and I'm trying to explain. Uh, some things can't be explained. About say maybe about a year ago, the guy I work for, he owns two trucks, and his name is Ryan. And Ryan drove one truck. He was an owner operator, and I drove the other truck for him. So I subcontracted to Ryan. And Ryan was a real treasure to find. He was a man who, like the Good Samaritan, did the right thing all the time, but didn't know why. He didn't really have the structure behind it. He wasn't a Bible reader, not to any great degree. Really not a man of much reading. But he was honest. He was had good scruples, good ethics, good morals, uh, wise in certain ways, a bit naive or ignorant of spiritual things. He knew of them and he believes in the Lord, but there's just over much time, I found myself ministering to him very much, at great length. And the approach had to be very subtle with him, but he was a fast learner. One day, he went out with his wife, and I think they went out to get something to eat. And they were driving home, and they were driving by one of these big mega churches, these big Christian mega churches. And from the corner of his eye, he sees a car coming from the back of this church parking lot. He's on a two-lane road. The car doesn't stop, doesn't brake, doesn't see him, and he crashes into his wife and himself. She crashes. It was a young lady. She was 17 or 18 years old. Turns out to be the pastor's daughter. Well, he was very seriously injured, and so was his wife. They both had to be medevaced to the hospital. The injuries were very bad. They had compound fractures in the legs. He had an injury to his forehead, across his nose, and put him out of work for a while, and the healing process was very long and very painful. He got to a point after many, many months of, he really didn't follow the doctor's orders to any great degree. He tried to walk before he should, and the bone just wasn't healing. There was a lot of prayer concerning this, and a lot of talks we had. We talked, Doug, every day, and because we were both drivers and we had that in common, and spend time in the port, and we could grumble about the port and what the union was doing, but we got on the subject of God quite often, and it would turn into heated exchanges. And Ryan was willing to listen. He was a tough nut to crack, but he was willing to listen. And one day I got into a conflict with the dispatcher. There was this Jezebelish kind of relationship they had, She was a woman dispatcher, and kind of controlling, kind of bossy. And Ryan was so seduced by her that she could do no wrong. She'd present one face to me, a different face to Ryan. And when I try to tell Ryan, you guys are friends, you know each other, you're neighbors, you've known each other for a long time, you've worked together for a long time. I'm telling you, Ryan, because when the things you're telling me about her character, her personality, are not who I'm seeing when I talk to her on the phone, when I get my marching orders for the day, for the work, and he's like, I just don't see it. I don't understand it. One day he got it. He understood it. But it took a lot, it took a lot of taking from this person, and turning the other cheek, and knowing that I was being slighted, and I wasn't getting my due of the work or the income, and I had a mortgage to pay and responsibilities, but I said, I'm gonna make the best of this, and I'm gonna put my best foot forward, and I'm gonna move on, and well, Ryan finally, his eyes were opened, and he addressed the situation. And one day, before this happened, one day Ryan and I were had such a difference about this that I really pissed him off, and it was my intention to piss him off. Now, understand, this man's in crutches, and he flew into a rage, and I was going to park the truck and quit. I was done. So I'm not going to drive for you. I'm not going to work for this person. I'm not going to take orders from this person. You're not seeing my point of view, and I've had it. And I got into an heat. He said, "Well, I'll be right over," and he came over. Doug, he was hot. He was livid. So here comes this guy. Now, this is a strong guy. All right. He comes over to me, and I just can't be mad at him. I'm not mad at him to begin with. It's a question of principle. I guess he mistook it for me being angry with him or something. So he comes over, Ryan, and I watch him come out of his pickup truck and hobble over to me on those crutches, just livid, and just trying to control himself, but he's just shaking. And I open the door of the truck and I look at him. Ryan, look at you. I said, you are a pathetic sight. You're so up in arms, about all this, and to the point that you came here. You should be home with your family. You should be on the mend, I had to do this. I had to stoke that fire in you. I had to get you mad because you've been feeling so sorry for yourself. You've been, oh, woe is me, and you've been staying in the house, and you haven't been getting out, and you haven't been following the doctor's orders, and, you're depressed to the point of manic depression. Here you are, a man who's accustomed to working hard all his life. Nobody's ever given you anything that you know of. You've been given much. You have many gifts and many, many blessings that you're blind to. I'm here to tell you that I see them. I'm going to tell you what they are every time I see them. And I've been doing that all along. And I think that you're beginning to see that. Ryan, this man, there's so much writing now. He lost his income, and I'm the only income he's got coming in, and I'm the only one he can count on right now. And I'm trying to tell you, I'm not the one you should be counting on. I'm not reliable. Jesus is 100% reliable. You trust in him, you can't go wrong. And I'm trying to let you know, people will let you down. I'll let you down, Doug. You'll let me down. We'll let each other down. Just a fact. Jesus won't. He won't let us down. But Doug, to see this graphic illustration, and, it comes to mind this morning as I've read your post, and I've had time to pray and think about it, meditate, and I watched the trailer for The Mission. Now, I'm a big Robert De Niro fan. I never heard of this movie. This is a real eye-opener for me to see him in this type of role. I can't wait to get the movie. I'm going to go on to Amazon and see if I can't find it, maybe cheap, But like I said, I'm reminded of this now because, we had gone back and forth, and I looked at Ryan and said, man, you don't know how much I love you like a brother, man. I said, you're younger than me, but you don't know how much you've taught me. You don't know about how much you've taught me about responsibility, about that work integrity of yours that you hold to such a high standard. And it's the integrity, you stay up on the truck, you stay up on the equipment, you're concerned about safety, you're concerned about your family, you're concerned about your family's safety, you're concerned about your friends. I've never met anyone quite like you to that degree, a meticulous, caring, but to the point where you're like a perfectionist. And he confessed it, he said, I'm a perfectionist. I said, well, no one's perfect, you're holding yourself to such a high standard. I said, do you understand this humbling trial you're going through? A strong guy like you, all of a sudden, blindsided like this, and your wife was going to college, and now that's on hold. You're both on hold. You don't know where you're going to eat. You don't know where your next meal's coming from. You don't know. You have to rely. You have to rely on him fully, before anything will change. And, well, I'm not out to hurt the Aussie, Doug. I really am not. And I've got to do what I've got to do. And when I had that exchange with Ryan, I couldn't understand why. Like you said, I'm trying to understand. I try to understand. But when I let go of trying to understand by my own understanding and just trusted, and knew that all things would work together for good, for those who love the Lord and those who are called according to his purpose. And these are not just empty words. This is real, very real. And that's what I had to do. And I said, this man's coming here. I don't know if he's going to, frankly, plain language, even with one bad leg, he's still capable of beating the shit out of me. Trust me, this guy's strong. And I got him red hot, angry. I mean, when he got out of that truck, his face was red, and he was in a fury, and he felt betrayed, like, I don't understand why you're doing this to me, Tony. I don't understand why you're putting me through this. I don't get it, what's the deal with you, And I looked at him, I looked at him, and I looked at him, and I talked to him. I said, Ryan, look at you. You're all fired up. You're standing here, you're ready to kick my ass. You're getting your fire back, man. Fight. Don't fight me. Fight. Fight that apathy. Fight that depression. Fight that, that feeling of helplessness. Fight. Keep fighting, Ryan. You're a fighter. You're not a quitter. Fight. And I looked at Ryan. I said, you may not believe this, Ryan. And maybe you're not used to men speaking to you this way. You might think me gay or weak or something. I don't care. Because I worry about what God thinks, not what people think. I said, Ryan, but I want to let you know, I love you. I love you like a brother. And I mean that sincerely. And this guy looked at me, and tears just started streaming down his eyes, Doug. And his tone was so soft and tender. And he's just like, there were no words. There's just nothing he could say. I got out of the truck and I gave him a big hug and I said, come on, man, you need to go home. Everything's okay. I'm not quitting. I'm not going anywhere. I'll call the dispatcher, and, I will humble myself to the dispatcher, and I will take direction, and I'll just get the job done, and we'll just move on from here, okay? I said to him, I'm not sorry this happened. This had to happen. I didn't know why. I couldn't tell you why. I just know that it was a learning experience for both of us. But if I wasn't open to it, I couldn't have known. And I'd have gone on and on with that same conflict, and how harboring that resentment and bitterness from, feeling slighted or whatever, but God's the great equalizer. Jesus is the great equalizer. There's no being slighted by anyone. There's no my image. Oh, what do people think? Oh, what are they going to say on Facebook? Who cares? Who gives a shit what people think on Facebook? Honestly, who gives a shit? I care what God thinks, period. I've been broken down to such a degree that I'm not worried. You can't shame me. You can't humiliate me beyond what I have been. I haven't tip of the iceberg of what I love to use that term, but it's tip of the iceberg, Doug. You don't know all that much about me. And I know as a former lawyer, you can find out a lot of things, but you can't dig this deep. There's things inside of me and things the Lord knows that, the points to which I've been broken, to the degrees that I've been broken. I'm that tamed horse, but I love him for it. It's not like, wow, you subjected me and you cornered me. No, I was, to use your term, you like to use this term, arrested, apprehended. I've been apprehended, completely apprehended, and I'm going along peacefully. I'm not offering any resistance. I'm not resisting arrest. I'm coming along, and I just accept His will. So, I just wanted to tell you about that message. It came to me this morning after prayer. I had a hard line when I first read your comments, and I said, you know what? Let me not respond. Let me go outside and let me go outside and meditate and get to that peaceful place and talk to the Lord and open myself up to Him. Acknowledge my errors. Acknowledge my sins. Acknowledge how I allowed my own will to get in the way of His will and cross paths and a kind of interfere. You can interfere. You can be so into a cause that you actually get in God's way. Is it possible to get in God's way? Yes, it is. It's not wise. It's like getting in front of a steamroller. But it is possible. You can come along and try to help someone that you see falling down, and it's kind of like God shakes his head. Oh boy, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, I got to do this all over again, and the person falls again, and then you're there, and all you're doing is enabling. You're just getting in the way, and you've got to step aside and let God. If there's a breaking point, God knows it. We don't. We don't know the breaking point. We don't know the amount of force to apply. We don't know if we should be shooting a squirrel with an elephant gun or a scatter gun, or a BB gun. God knows. God knows what it's going to take and what the measure is, and I trust in Him for that. And though it may seem excessive on my point, taunting on my point, on my side, it's not anything personal. Not at all. I see this person and myself in the past as prisoners, as we can be saved and backslide, and we can also be saved and not yet delivered. And deliverance to me is a process. It happens over time. I think we're being delivered in our Christian walk a bit at a time, one iota at a time. And that increases, we grow in wisdom, we grow in teaching, we grow in the Spirit, we grow in our love for the Lord, we grow in our love for one another and for our neighbors. It's not easy. It's not easy to love your neighbors. My neighbor said to me, and I'm going to tell you this, Doug, and I hope Hillary's not listening. My neighbor, we had problems. They had these guinea hens that were overrunning our yard. And we spoke to them several times. And they just brushed us off. It wasn't a concern to them. Well, I come back here to pray. And those guinea hens would jump right up on the railing here. And it wasn't one or two. It was 10 of them. And finally, I had to call I call animal control. When they came, they were going to issue a fine for each one, $250 for each one, or they would seize them, confiscate them. So she acquiesced to that, and there was a lot of bitterness about that. I didn't know they would do that. When I called them, I thought they'd just come by and give her a warning, But unfortunately, that happened, and it just made things worse, and I did regret that for a while. Well, there was a confrontation, and words were exchanged, heated words. She kind of cornered me one day, and her boyfriend, after she walked in the house, looked at me, and I said to him, there was all these bitter feelings, and she had made an accusation against Jody, and I said, allegedly something Jody did, and she hadn't done that. And I said, even if she had, she's forgiven. I said, don't you understand that? I said, you accepted Christ right on my front porch. Don't you understand that whatever she did is forgiven? Doesn't go into the next day at all. It's forgiven that day, that night when we pray. I said, you just don't get that, do you? And that was your weapon levied against us, this accusation. And she was stunned. I could see she was stunned as she walked in the house, and she was kind of baffled because she unloaded her big gun, and it was a dud, And the guy looks at me, and this is the guy who I helped when he hurt his hand, and she came over to our house ringing the doorbell, and he was bleeding from his hand. He was cutting some plexiglass, and his hand slipped, and he had a serious injury to his hand. And I rushed him to the hospital, and I stayed with him, and I spoke with him, and I comforted him the whole time. And for a time, they were very, very grateful, and they were trying to pay us back, like cutting our lawn and doing things for us, bringing us eggs, and I told them it's not necessary, I said, it wasn't me who did this. I said, it's the heart that God put in me. Years ago, I wouldn't have gave a shit. And they just couldn't get that. They couldn't understand it. They felt like they had to pay me back. And I said, there's no debt here. Jesus paid all our debts. Well, I was talking to this guy after she went in the house. He had his sunglasses on. He had a little smirk on his face. And when I spoke to him of God, Doug, he looked me, I would say in the eye, he had sunglasses on. He said, F God. I looked at him. What did you say? He said, F God. And I was speechless. And we haven't spoken since, and I was stunned. I just shook my head. And he walked away. I was left devastated. Devastated, because he didn't know the extent of this. It's one thing to be a self-proclaimed atheist, but for someone to say that right to your face. And I thought, God, what kind of test is this? What kind of test is this, Lord? And a few days ago, it was Sunday, my doorbell rang. Now my neighbors have tortoises. They have lots of tortoises and turtles and all kinds. They've got like this little preserve going on next door, wildlife preserve. And my neighbor comes over, and I can't understand them. William and Betty. Well, William had a stroke years ago, so it's difficult to understand him sometimes. And I kind of probed, and I got what he was saying to me. He was trying to get the neighbors, but the neighbors wouldn't answer the doorbell. And then I understood that he had a tortoise at his house. He had turned them upside down because the thing was just going all over the place. So it's Memorial Day weekend here in America, and crowds of people, families getting together and barbecues and stuff. So he says, well, I got no place to keep him. I don't know what to do. I turned him on his back because this thing likes to go, And the name and the address is written on the turtle shell, so you know whose it is, Well, I couldn't get a hold of my neighbors. Jody called. She had a number in her archives in her phone, and she called the neighbor, and eventually he did call us back and told him, well, we got your turtle. We went over to get the turtle. You should have seen the crowd, kids screaming, and everybody gathered around. It's like 40, 50 people gathered around this tortoise on this lawn, And it was the weirdest thing to see. And I said, God, this is you. Lord, you are amazing. It's amazing, There's this rift between ourselves and our neighbors. And there've been hard feelings, not speaking, not even waving to each other, I don't have any hard feelings towards them. But apparently they do towards us. So just let it go. I mean, just don't exacerbate the situation. Just try to be civil to one another, and respect each other's boundaries. And so here I am in this position, Jody and I. So we go over with our pickup truck, and we get the turtle in the back of my pickup. Of course, he made a big mess. I never knew tortoises had such huge turds. But the first thing it did when I picked it up, Doug, I'm not kidding. At first, it was like this, I can't even show you. It was just like that came out of a turtle, It was mostly grass, So I guess it had dug under its fence. They dig, they like to dig, and that's how they nest and stuff. So, there's all this commotion with the tortoise, and we've got him. We had him on our back deck for a couple of hours before the guy came to get it, But the guy came, he was very humble and very kind and very respectful, And I didn't say much. I just watched. I let Jody do all the talking, she's the tender side of things. And I let her do everything. I was just there as an observer, and he came and got his turtle and talked to us. He talked to Jody for a bit, He wouldn't raise his eyes to me. He wouldn't look at me. He made no eye contact with me whatsoever. He seemed ashamed, and I thought that was a shame, As Jesus said, if you're ashamed of me, I'll be ashamed of you. So that was, to me, very revealing, how that particular verse come to life. When we live in shame, we live under the enemy's thumb. We live in fear, we're under his thumb. We live in anxiety and worry, we're under the thumb. We live in debt, we're under the thumb of the enemy. And Jesus doesn't want that for us. And I thought, how sad. I said, maybe, quite possibly, if I can find the patience and open my heart enough to what the Holy Spirit's guiding me to do, there can be some kind of breakthrough in the future, if not from me or through me, to somebody else, But there it was. I didn't judge him. I didn't say, "Damn you! You said F God, and I don't want nothing to do with you." You hate God, you hate me. I didn't judge him. I didn't say anything. I said, you know what? God's heard worse. He's heard worse, and He will deal with this. I have to set my feelings aside. But the whole thing with the getting hands on, that was something I had to do. I had to establish boundaries. I had to establish borders. Come this far, no further. And that's what you did with me today. You established some boundaries and some borders. Just happened upon this as your baby. Honestly, I've been posting on there more because there's more views on there. Nobody likes me. So I'll refrain from that because I don't want to give you any kind of, what we say in Spanish, mala fama. Mala fama is kind of like a bad name. Don't want to do that. So anyway, I wanted to share these stories with you and these experiences. It's just so rich, the things that God's doing in our lives. When I posted that last thing with all the pictures and images, it was hesitantly. But I said, in for a penny, in for a pound. And I came outside with Jody, and she just read it. And I had read about the Jezebel spirit, which I understood that to a degree from reading it, and what Elijah did, with the 900 prophets. But that Bible lesson that I posted from Ray Stedman, I believe it was, or the Berean, was more telling for me. It explained it more. It was more of a study, you know. And I look at the sun shining through. See the light coming through? Let's let that light shine, and as I speak, and take the focus off of me, and let the light be the focus. I went outside with Jody after that, and we went outside, out back here, right when I'm talking to you right now, and we heard a hawk. And as I heard the hawk, and as I was walking out, I had an image of the two eagles I saw. It flashed in my mind, just like it was just like this ersatz blink, you know. And I saw the eagles. I looked up, I saw the hawks. I saw the eagles, I saw the hawks. I saw them both as if they were both here right now. And I realized something. Jody said something to me many years ago. I can't tell you the exact day or time, but it was probably at least 4 years ago, okay? And I was attending catechism classes, and Miss Patricia Ruddy was my instructor in that class. She was a nun. She was been a nun for 20 years, and she left the sisterhood. Still a very fervent follower of Christ, and still a very prominent member of the Catholic Church, and very active there. And at Mepkin's Abbey as well, she does things there. Her daughter plays the harpsichord, and they have concerts there. She also is a missionary in Africa. Well, Miss Patricia is boy, I don't know how to describe her. I'm going to tell you something. She actually looks a bit like Hillary. That's appearance-wise. I don't know personality-wise. She's different. She's, if you look at her, she seems very stern. But she's the sweetest person you ever met. And she was the one that told me about she just loves Michael Downey. She's met Michael Downey in person. He's come to the Abbey. He's intrigued by the Trappist lifestyle and ways and customs. And he comes here quite often to Mepkin's Abbey, which is only about 20 minutes from where I live. And she's actually has a book signed by him in person. And she's actually met the guy. Jody said to me one day out of the blue, this is around the time of awakening. Now when I say awakening, I know I was saved, but there was a process going on, you know, that early fervor time, you know, you refer to so often. Well, Jody looked at me one day and she says, honey, I have something to ask you. And I thought it was about finances. I thought it was about relationship, our home. And she says to me, if you could be an angel, any kind of angel, what kind of angel would you choose to be? And first of all, the question caught me completely off guard. It's not something I ever meditated on, ever thought about at all. I never given it any thought, because angels are angels and humans are humans, and you know, we have souls and they don't, so I don't understand how I could ever be an angel, you know, or relate to something angelic. And I said, honey, you got me stumped there. You know, I don't want to give you a quick answer, a knee jerk. I said, give me a second and let me pray about it. And let's see, give me a second and let me think, and let me close my eyes and ask the Lord and really meditate on it, and I'll give you an answer. And as soon as I finished saying that, I said, messenger. I said, I don't know how I know that, but that soft, still voice, small, still voice in my mind said, messenger. And I said, how about you? Oh, she said, oh, warrior, just like Michael. I'll be right next to Michael. And I was so intrigued by this occurrence, and it was so thought-provoking and stayed with me throughout the day and for a time, and to this day, 5 years later, almost 5 years later, 4.5, 5 years. And during an opportunity in class where there was a pause, I said, Miss Patricia, I have a question to ask you. She said, go ahead, Anthony. I said, well, Miss Patricia, it's not really my question. It's a question that was posed to me by Jody. And Miss Patricia, I'll tell you honestly, I was stumped at first, and then the answer was very clear. She said, what's the question, Anthony? I said, well, if you could be an angel, any kind of angel, if it were possible, what kind of angel would you be? And without hesitation, she said, oh, a warrior. Here we got two warriors and one messenger. And reading through that Prince of Persia occurrence for Daniel, I remembered that Gabriel was engaged with the enemy, and Michael came to assist him. And when I read that, and I was reading that article, the images of the two eagles kept prompting me this kind of a flash of a memory, flash, and it was flash, two angels, flash, two eagles, flash, two angels, flash, two eagles, flash, the battle of Persia, flash, the messenger that was thwarted for a time, flash, and I could not make the connection. Well, Gabriel is a messenger, and Michael is a warrior, and I saw two black eagles that are not native to this area. And the thing about these two black eagles was they had bands around their necks, a band of white around their neck. They look like priests. And in all the illustrations I've seen them, they can have white spots, but they're not known to have a collar like that. And that was the vision I saw here, while awake in my yard, on my telephone pole. And when I came outside and all these images are flashing at me, kind of like that poem City Stew, where the lights of the train are flashing. When you go to a subway, the lights flicker on and off. It was like that. It was like the lights flickering on and off, kind of like this stop motion effect. And I came outside into the light, and I walked across that threshold, and the first thing I heard was an eagle. Jody walked, one hawk. And as I walked out, Jody was right behind me, appeared another hawk. And both hawks just circled over us, Doug. Just kept circling over us. And they were red-tailed hawks. You can see the sun shining through the beautiful colors. And they just kept squealing. And as I'm looking at this, all this is coming together, all at once, everything. And, I'm floored by it. I still don't understand it, but I know the Lord wanted me to connect those dots and to understand something, which, if I don't understand right away, I don't worry about it, because it just will unfold, it'll just unfold. It's like crinkling up aluminum foil and then watching it just, putting it on rewind, and just watching that video of the thing unfolding. It'll unfold. Whatever's kinked up will unkink. Whatever is knotted will unknot. We get knots. We get knots in our shoes. We get knots in our drawstrings and our sweatpants. We get knotted up. We get kinks in our garden hose when we're trying to water something. We got to go back there and wonder why the flow stopped. Why did the flow stop? Well, let me go go around the corner of the house, there's a kink in the hose. Okay, well, that's why the water stopped flowing. There's so many analogies to that, metaphors. It's just, endless. So, anyway, I love you very much, Doug. I'm not going to go on and on and on and on and on. Your time is precious, and you're limited to Wi-Fi, and I understand that. So I hope when you find the time to listen to this, you give it a listen. God bless you and your family. God bless Hillary. I hope she's progressing well. I hope she's doing well. The pictures you sent are lovely. The last picture in particular, she was radiating a glow and a smile that was just to die for. And we are so jealous. especially Jody, because you talked about having fish and chips or fish, whatever you went to, that place down there where the fish were. And we both love fish tremendously, so yeah, Jody got jealous. But anyway, we send our love and blessings to you and your family and yours, and all your readers, and love you very much, bro. Yeah, everything's cool. I'm not angry. I'm not upset about any of this stuff. It's just kind of like, wow, what can I tell you? It's kind of like being drafted, you know. Selective service, you know. You've been called, you know. Active duty, you know, and you know, you call out of the reserves to do something, and it's a short-term assignment, and you take care of it, and you know, life goes on. It's not a big deal. It's just you get prompted, you know, and you got to do, and it's not a there's just no doubt about it when it happens, you know, and sometimes it's tough to understand. It really is tough. It's really tough for me to understand, you know. It really is. Even some of the things I have to do, I begin them without even knowing where I'm going. You know, it's like Jesus was sent to what was that? Case in the Bible where someone was sent on the mission, started walking, and didn't even know where he was going. He just started walking, and you know, he was instructed along the way. Well, it's like when you call to duty, you called into action. You just get up and start walking, and the Lord will guide you to where you need to be, what you need to do. And it's like that vision I had, that dream where we were both equipped, and I realized that it was you, and that we were walking together, and you in the dream and the vision were fully equipped. You were fully equipped, and I was coming along with you, and as I walked alongside you is when I started to become equipped. So I understand and I recognize that, you know, the equipping and why we're walking together right now, and you know, I respect that, and I see it for what it is, and love the Lord for it, and having had that revelation. It was prophetic. It was, that dream was a long time ago, at least 3 years ago, that I had, and stuck with me, and I hadn't realized what it meant until we began to have this relationship, and then the Lord made it clear to me. And even when I told you, I wasn't even sure at that point. I was not sure. It was just something I suspected, something I was being prompted to tell you. And I told you in faith, and you took it on faith. But now I understand it clearer, and we're meant to walk together in this way. And there's a mission for us. I don't know if it's going to be long-lived or short-term, but the overall mission is eternal. But as far as our mission here, we don't know. It's up to him, you know, the assignment. It's not mine. It's just, when you call me, it's, yes, sir. Yes, Father. Yes. The answer is always yes. No maybe. No I might. Let me think about it. Just yes. That's a tough place to get to, Doug. To be a yes man. I'm a yes man for the Lord. Yes, Lord. Thy will be done. Not mine, but thy will be done. And when he calls you to do something, it's just yes. Doesn't have to make sense to me. I don't have to understand it. All I have to do is trust in him and know he's got my best interest in mind. Love you, bro. Bye-bye.